Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Fresh Out, the podcast, the greatest podcast if you like us, three people. I'm Johananon, the board game guru, game master extraordinaire.
It's me, Casualty CDG, and since this is episode 98, there will be a $98 cover charge for everybody listening. So you just get your PayPal ready and shoot us that money.
You buried the lead. Not only is there a $98 cover charge, there's also a concert from 98 Degrees that will be taking place at the end of this show.
Oh, man, I didn't know that. That's really good news. I'm super stoked to see Aaron Carter's brother.
That's a different band.
Oh, nice.
But I did forget to say, I am the professional media and movie mastermind in the Funhouse, Drew Munhausen. Anyways, Gary, go on, please. Let's talk more about 98 Degrees.
Is it Nick Lachey from 98 Degrees?
He is.
Okay. Is he the only one?
He has a brother named Drew Lachey, who I believe is also in the band.
You know, I've always hated that name.
Yeah,
Drew?
me too. I could not tell you anybody else from that band.
So it's just the Lacheys and some other guys, and really Nick Lachey is just sort of a reality show host now?
Yeah, more or less. Would know. What's the Netflix reality show he hosts? He's the host of one of them, right?
Yeah, he's the host of that sexy one. And in fact, I think he's the host of two different shows. I think he's the host of the sexy one and the I Can't See You one.
Love is Blind. Is that the I Can't See You one?
That is the I Can't See You one. Very good. Yeah, I think he's the host for both. I think they got a 2-for-1 deal for Nick Lachey, which, if we're being honest, I mean, that's probably a pretty good deal for everybody.
John Cena is the host of the You Can't See Me game show. So, there you go.
Ooh, oh boy. Nick Lachey was also unmasked on a season of The Masked Singer that I watched once, but I feel like that's probably been over a year plus ago.
Yeah,
I want to say he was a pig.
Oh, nice. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, for a season of The Masked Singer that aired probably over a year ago. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Oh my god, my inbox is flooding with hate mail for that. That's fast. It's just hate mail. Wow.
I take it back. I'm sorry.
We apparently have a lot of fans catching up on old seasons of Masked Singer, so let's not try to do any more.
They're all typists.
I promise to tread lightly around Masked Singer spoilers moving forward. Also moving forward, Jahan, you had something that you wanted to mention today.
Oh yeah, hey. So if you like TTRPGs, you should check out Cthulhu Dreamt by Action Fiction Games over on Kickstarter. It is already fully funded at about over 200%. I think they've raised $35,000 already. They're on the Kickstarters to watch right now, and I've been doing writing for them. So check it out, and you might get to get a adventure written by me. So that's pretty exciting. Very exciting for me. It's one of the first like big writing jobs I've ever had. So it's pretty exciting.
What's the name of the thing again?
Cthulhu Dreamt from Action Fiction Games. It is a near future sort of game where there's some advanced technology, some sci-fi stuff, and there is a lot of Cthulhu stuff going on. Cthulhu is awakening in this setting, and the world is going to chaos. It's very fun. I've gotten to play test it, and I had a lot of fun doing it. So I'm excited to write for them. They've been great to work with. So yeah, that's my piece.
In the writing credits for the game, will you be credited as the board game guru and game master extraordinaire Johananon?
I'll definitely be credited as Jahan Navisi. I'm actually on the Kickstarter right now as a writer, so that's pretty exciting for me. I saw my name up there, and I got
That's
all
awesome.
I got all
Congratulations.
excited. Thanks, man.
Yeah, congratulations. That's really exciting, and especially the fact that it's already funded. So it's like we get to promote it, but you don't have to like beg additional backers or anything. I'm sure any more helps, but it's like this is happening, right? It's happening.
It's happening. It will be
What's,
made.
uh,
It's coming out.
What's the name? What's the name of Cthulhu Dreamt again, and who made it?
Cthulhu Dreamt by Action Fiction Games.
We just got to make sure to litter the name throughout. That way, when we're saying it and people come back from whatever they're doing, they remember
They
to go
remember.
by Cthulhu Drift by Action Fiction. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
that is really exciting, and actually, the topic of games makes for an easy segue to something that I wanted to bring up today because I thought it was a pretty funny piece of news this week. In the video game front, so we've been fortunate as Xbox gamers to have backwards compatibility for a long time now, right? The Xbox One era, there were Xbox 360 games being added on there. So there's a lot of games, older games that Xbox gamers have access to, and PC gamers would as well. But like maybe if you're playing on a PS5 now and the game wasn't ever ported to PS4 and it was stuck on PS3, it's still stuck there. You might not be able to play all of those games. Well, it had been rumored, there were some rumblings that maybe a remake or a remaster of Red Dead Redemption was coming out, which this is not Red Dead Revolver, but Red Dead Redemption, the first of the Red Dead Redemption games. I think came out in 2010 originally. Does that sound right? 2010,
Sounds about right.
2009?
Yeah.
Something of the sort. This is a game. It was a 360 and PS3 game. It is backwards compatible currently for us on Xbox. You can go buy the 360 disc of Red Dead Redemption and put it into your Xbox Series X or S, and the game will work, right? You have access. And the Undead Nightmare DLC for that game also works. It was finally announced to be coming to the PS4 and the Nintendo Switch for the first time ever. It's a PS4 version of the game, so it'll be playable on PS5. It's a PS4 version of the game for $50 a pop if you're buying this on the Switch or the PS4. So, and there are no changes. There's no actual remastering, no remaking, nothing new in the game. This is a straight up port of the PS3 game that is now playable on Switch and PS4. That 2K Games at Rockstar, no, excuse me, I think it's Take-Two, whoever it is that Rockstar is under. I should know and I should fact check, but I'm not going to. Whoever it is, they've been known to do this, and I've been on the record as saying, like, with Grand Theft Auto 5, I bought 3 different copies of that game. At one point, like, I bought it for 360 when it came out. Then they kind of remastered it for PS4 and Xbox One, and I bought a PS4 version at that time. And then I wanted it again in the Xbox One era and ended up buying the remake on Xbox as well. So I've bought that game 3 times. So there is a market for this, for these Rockstar games, for people to buy them multiple times.
So don't feel too bad. But yeah, I bought it because it came out for 360, right? And like it came out right at the end of the 360. So it didn't really operate very well. So yeah, I think I ended up getting it again for Xbox X, Series X, whatever it was. But yeah, and if I had a computer, I probably would have ended up buying it again. But now it's on Game Pass, Grand Theft Auto for now. But yeah, you're right. They do this. Rockstar Games has always done this. I think they re-released Bully, and it was much the same. It was almost full price, like 5 or 6 years later. Grand Theft Auto, I said right now it's on Game Pass, but it's still full price. If it's not on Game Pass, it's still a $69 game, and they're still trying to get people to buy, all the Card Shark crap.
Yeah.
They're really item molly right now. I'm not a big fan of what Rockstar is doing.
I saw
taking
something
forever.
the
Go
other
ahead.
day that said that Grand Theft Auto 5 has generated more money than any other piece of entertainment ever made.
I believe that.
Which
I
is
believe that.
insane. It's insane. But yeah, also,
I wish they would get on with Grand Theft Auto 6 and not sit around making a $50 port version of Red Dead Redemption. I don't need that. Put your team back on GTA 6. Let's go.
I agree, especially after they ported like all 3 of like the older GTA games to the Switch not that long ago, and it was, by all reports, it was a glitchy mess of nonsense. It was just a straight over port. There was no remaster. It was more expensive than it needed to be, and a lot of it didn't work. Like, it had some serious bugs, like game crashing bugs, which I feel is just unacceptable. You guys, if you're going to rehash the same crap, you have to at least remaster it. You know what I mean? It has to. I want it to look better. I want it to work better, or at all. It has to work at least. That's the bare minimum.
And the funny thing about this too is, like, I had a PS3, and I'm pretty sure that late in the PS3 life cycle that Red Dead Redemption was offered as like a PlayStation Plus game of the month. So I had it on my PS3 without purchasing it, because I had already purchased it for my 360. So it's funny that you could have had a PS3 and redeemed that game at some point for free or as part of your annual subscription. And now if you want to play it on your current generation console, you're going to have to chalk up an extra $50 to play that again.
More than 20. They should feel bad about even considering 50. Whoever sat in a boardroom and decided that should feel bad.
That's where I'm at.
Period.
Yeah,
if you're going to charge for it, it can't be a $50 premium.
If it's
like, that's almost as much as a new game.
If it's a straight port, $30 max. Like, maximum.
I was gonna say 30, but no, 30 is reserved for new games that aren't complete yet. Games like Exoprimal that just sort of have a multiplayer, or Deep Rock Galactic that also just sort of has a multiplayer. Those are your $30 games. 20-year-old ports, those should be $20.
Yeah, I know that this has been... It's always been a hot topic for Gary, the remakes and remasters, and I know he does not like those cash grabs. So whenever I see a new story like this making headlines, that Nintendo and PlayStation gamers are kind of rightfully aggravated about,
it's disgusting.
It's just kind of funny
to go in and grab this game out of the dollar bin. You know, this is a trash game. It's not some heralded amazing game. Red Dead Redemption 2 was. Yeah. But the first Red Dead Redemption's just fine. It's not, I don't even know what to compare it to. It's not some huge title, though. It's just kind of a meh game in the first place.
Yeah, it's weird that they would do that at all when Red Dead Redemption 2 exists and is easily accessible. I don't know, it's just like some I feel differently than Gary about remakes and remasters. I feel like sometimes they have their place. Like, they're coming out with a remaster of Super Mario RPG, The Legend of the Seven Stars, or whatever it's called.
That's much more than a remaster. I feel like that is a full-on remake.
It is a direct remake. Like, they did completely remake it from the ground up, but it's the exact same game, which is why I said remaster. Right. Probably remake is more accurate. But it was one of my favorite SNES games, and it's become incredibly difficult to find. Like, you can't play it. You need Super Nintendo. It's an expensive game if you can find it somewhere. It's like $100. But so I'm excited to get to play it with better graphics on new hardware wherever I go. You know, it's exciting. They're charging full price. It is going to be a $60 game. At the very least, with this game, at least they updated all the visuals and audio and all that stuff. I never realized that Gino had like an emo hair swoop. I always thought he just had like weird eyebrows, because you can't really tell on the SNES, but you can with these new graphics. So I'm okay with it in this instance, but I mean that also brings up like the conversation of old games in general. There's a lot of conversation. I don't know if you guys are privy to this or if you're aware, but there's a lot of talk about what happens to these old games. Sometimes they disappear off the face of the earth forever because they have all these strict laws about emulators and ROMs and stuff like that. There's no real way to preserve this video game history for future generations. And so, like, that's... I deal with remakes and remasters because you kind of can bring those games into the future. It's cool that, like, my little cousin who wasn't alive for the Super Mario game could play one of my favorite games of all time. Those kinds of things are cool. But at the same time, you know, I wish that you could just access these things. I wish they had, what do you call it? Like how songs become common use after so long. You know, I wish that they lost their copyright and you could access them for free.
I'm absolutely with you, and I think there's a big difference in a carefully done and cared about remake of Super Mario RPG that's being remade, you know, from the ground up for a modern audience, that's staying true to the original but with updated visuals and controls that I think they're putting a lot of TLC into, right? A lot of tender love and care here.
It's copying. In my mind, all they're doing is they're a direct copy of somebody else's homework. They're not thinking for themselves. They're not writing a new story. They're just tracing what's already there. They're not directing. They're not producing anything new. And honestly, they're probably... I know game companies have cut down so much on shipping. The fact that game costs go up keep pissing me off, but with games like this, you know, all the creative is out already. All you have to do is the technical side. There's no way they should be charging full price for these kinds of remakes.
Yeah, and I'll agree with you that I feel digital games should be minimum $10 cheaper, for sure. But also, like, yeah, I would be even more excited for a sequel to Mario RPG. You know what I mean? That would be a mind-blowing
awesome
announcement.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably
instead,
not
what we get is fine.
This is probably not the argument you'd want to hear, because you're like, digital games should be $10 cheaper. But then in a way, I'm fine paying that same price, because to me, it's worth it to not have to get up and change discs and things like that. You get so used to it that now I feel like it's a burden to have the physical disc of games ever since I've gone fully digital.
Just give me an itemized reason of why I'm paying what I'm paying, because when I cut your production out and I cut your shelf space out and your physical discs that you have to print and your boxes and cartridges, I'm saving you a lot of money. Taking the entire supply chain out is most of the money. Well, it used to be. I bet it's not anymore. Now software is most of the money.
And you're also eliminating the risk of overproduction and unsold copies by buying digitally. You know what I mean? Like, it's a whole thing. Like, it should be cheaper. It's the fact that it's not, like, they're just pocketing the difference. And it's not like they're paying their employees more. If that's where the money was going, you know what I mean? If you're paying your artists more, fine, whatever. I'll pay the same for digital. But that's not where it's going. It's going right into some asshole's pocket at the top, so he can, you know, go do blow off of women in the Gulf on his yacht. Like, it's not going into a single artist's pocket.
Here. Except the PlayStation guy. That guy's an artist who actually made it and got his name known.
Well, you know, there's always going to be an exception.
There's always an exception to the rule. And then you got Cliff Bleszinski over there doing exactly what you just described, allegedly.
Like, luckily on the Nintendo front, they're doing better about making some of their old games available. Like, if you subscribe to the Nintendo Online service, you know, you get like the N64 emulator and Game Boy Advance and Game Boy and Super Nintendo and so on. And even just today, they announced that Pokemon Stadium 2 is coming to the N64 emulator, or is on the N64 emulator now, and the Pokemon trading card game for Game Boy is on there as well. So, like, it's nice that those things just get added. Yes. It would be a shame to, you know, for them to be like, Pokemon Stadium 2 is coming to the Switch and it's $25, because that would seem like a scam.
I feel
more in line with the Red Dead Redemption stuff.
I feel like a lot of my complaints would be eliminated if, like, the fact that you don't let us access ROMs and emulators would be fine if you gave us a way to access them. You know what I mean? But they don't. So, like, you're cutting off our only option, which is kind of busted in my opinion. Like, I really want to play old GameCube games, but they are fighting so hard to take Dolphin down. and they weren't allowed to release the Dolphin emulator on Steam because Nintendo fought them so hard and blah blah blah. It's just like, then you give me those games. Like, what's the deal here? You're not using them. Let me play.
And it just kind of goes back to the conversation we had recently about the upcoming Nintendo console and what that may or may not be, because I do feel like now as gamers, having backwards compatibility is becoming more of an expectation and assumption rather than, an exception to the rule. And I think that people are expecting that, our Nintendo accounts and Switch catalogs are going to be backwards compatible on whatever new system that they announce. And if not, it's going to be really interesting to see what the response to that will be, because Nintendo's the one wild card, right? Like, there is a chance that they come out with something completely off the wall that is not backwards compatible with anything else. Like, there's a chance that happens. I don't think it will. I'm actually really expecting that won't happen, but it could. Also on the game front, I just wanted to mention one more thing. Away from remakes and remasters, this is about a new release. We're now less than a month, officially less than a month from Starfield launching on Xbox, and
I'm pretty sure that Little Mermaid comes out the same day on Disney Plus. So if you're as torn as I am, don't be looking forward to September 6th.
Maybe Microsoft and Disney planned that for all the dads that want to play Starfield. It's like, okay, this new movie's out and I can put my child in front of the TV for 2 hours and 15 minutes to watch this extremely long Disney animated movie live action remake, and I can get a couple hours of Starfield in.
Maybe they planned it as a prank so that your kid won't give you the TV, and that you have to just sit there and suffer all day until the kid goes to sleep.
Instead of Barbenheimer, it's Star Made? Is that what we'd call it?
What are you talking about?
Instead of don't know something on this. You know what I'm talking about. I want to see the crossover art.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh boy. Starfield has been very out of sight, out of mind since the Starfield Direct, because my thought was that it looks really good. I'm going to play that on day one. I don't need to see any more trailers or any more gameplay. I am set. And it's been sneaking up on me because now here we are, less than a month away, and I saw a tweet from Ryan McCaffrey, who's executive editor at IGN and works on the Xbox side for IGN coverage, and he had a long tweet that I'm going to read some of here just because I thought what he was saying is really interesting, because this is somebody that has a lot of knowledge about the console and the history. He said, "I'm really curious to see what Starfield does to the discourse around Xbox. This is easily the biggest release on the platform in many years. I'd argue that there hasn't been a bigger moment for the platform since the launch of Halo 5, and we know how that went." He said, "Halo Infinite was big, sure, and it turned out great, but it had a lot of baggage leading up to its release that tamped down its launch day hype. Gears 5, as much as I adored it and said as much in my campaign review, just doesn't count as big anymore." This is the only point where I maybe kind of disagree with him. He says, "Forza, both Motorsport and Horizon, are the best in the world at what they do, but I'm not sure any racing game for any platform ever has been a truly huge release." I don't know about that. I feel like those are pretty big Xbox releases, but I do understand that racing is, really its own nook.
I remember the days when Gran Turismo was a big deal and a big release, and people would get the big box with the steering wheel and stuff to take home. There was always like a Gran Turismo edition PlayStation. Gran Turismo was a big racing game in the early 2000s because it was the only one doing that. It was the only one that looked that incredible and had that level of customization. Now, Forza does it too, and I guess it's just not a big deal because there's two just doing it and no one really cares. They're pretty competitive with each other. Racing games used to be a big deal.
There's a Gran Turismo movie coming out in just a few weeks.
Good.
Going on with the tweet, he just said, meanwhile, Starfield's biggest problem has been the nervous chatter last week about an insanely dense 100-plus hour Todd Howard Outer Space RPG not offering 15-minute demos at Gamescom. And so here we are with less than 1 month to go. Everyone got hyped by the Starfield Direct, and now September 6th really has the chance to be a huge, huge moment for Xbox. Do y'all agree with that? Do you feel like this is the biggest moment for Xbox since, let's see, if I have my timing correctly, I think Halo 5 came out in the fall of 2015. So that would have been 8 years ago. Is this the biggest moment for Xbox since then?
No. No, I think that Halo Infinite, even though it fell flat on its face, it was a huge moment. Everybody was waiting to download it. Everybody was waiting to play it. It got a ton of traffic. That was a huge, huge moment. And there have been other games that have come across Game Pass that I think have been pretty big moments. Fallout going completely free, I think, was a pretty cool moment. But yeah, I think as far as Xbox is, yeah, there's been other big moments. I don't think Halo 5 was the last one. And it fell on its face just like Halo Infinite did.
It kind of comes across like, to me, what he's trying to say, what Ryan McCaffrey's trying to say is, Halo, I agree. Halo Infinite was a big deal. Like, I was really looking forward to that game. Xbox needed to succeed there. There were definitely some hiccups. It reviewed really well, and I think the player base was really high when it first launched, and people liked the gameplay. It just, there wasn't much beyond that, and it got stale pretty quickly. I actually really liked that campaign. But that being said, Halo
was a big deal for me because that was the first time we were getting one of those original, what was it, Bethesda games, right? That was just for us, for Xbox. And then
it was a... not Bethesda. Which one is it that does it?
The Fallout people.
No, for Outer Worlds, it was the other one. Obsidian. Obsidian did Outer Worlds. Yeah, that one was interesting. But see, but again, here's the difference: is like, yes, we got that game on Game Pass day one, and so you got to play that game for just your Game Pass subscription. But that game was available on other consoles. You just had to buy it like a normal game. And the thing is, like with Halo is just such an Xbox property. Obviously, it's always been exclusive, but like, I don't think that people that have decided to commit to PlayStation as their console of choice are jealous for Xbox gamers for getting to play Halo. Yeah. I think that they don't really care. They're like, if I want to play Halo, I'd get an Xbox, but I don't care. Starfield, I think, is the first game that has come out in a long, long time that is an Xbox exclusive that console gamers on the other side of the fence are genuinely jealous of or envious of. That Xbox gamers get to have this experience and PlayStation gamers do not. I think it's the first time in a long, long time that we can say that. Like, I think that PlayStation gamers that they're good with Gran Turismo maybe aren't necessarily super jealous of the Forza property, even though Forza, I think, has been reviewed better and is considered to be the better of the two.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. They're so competitive now, right? That it's really, for me, I play racing games. I know you guys don't, but I play racing games. I put some hours into them. They're close enough to each other.
Yeah, it's not like
it's really
big
hard
departure.
to get excited for one.
So
but Starfield...
I feel that Starfield is absolutely one of their biggest moments. I feel that if this launch doesn't go well, if the game doesn't do well, it would be really bad for Xbox. Like, they have a lot riding on this. They spent a lot of money buying this company for this exclusive deal here. And if it doesn't do well, it could be... I mean, it would definitely leave a mark. I'm not saying it would take down Xbox, but...
I was going to say, they've had so many just bad releases.
After Redfall, man, they need.
But it's been going on. It's been going on since at least Halo Infinite. Since before that, they just keep tripping and falling. So actually, I think, and I don't think Starfield's gonna suck. But if it did, I don't think it would be that big of a deal because Xbox always trips and falls on their face. So if they do it again, fine. That's just like the kid at the playground who trips and falls down. And at some point, you just like shrug. You know, you don't even ask him if he's okay anymore. You're just like, yeah, that's what Xbox does. It trips and falls down on its face. I think it would be fine if they did that. I really don't think anybody would care. They would be like, that's just Xbox being an Xbox
I mean,
again.
you're not wrong, but like at the same time, I feel like this has to do well for like on their business side. I feel like if it doesn't do well, like they're gonna get in trouble with investors. There's gonna be some restructuring. I feel like people are. It will be a big deal if it fails internally. For the Xbox fans, we're used to it, but I really do need them to show up here. This needs to be a big game. I mean, they're hyping this up like it's gonna be Skyrim, and I have a
What do you
lot
guys-
riding on it, man.
What do you think is like comparable, right? If you're a PlayStation guy and you're saying, I wish I had Starfield, what do you think is comparable for the Xbox guys looking over there saying, I wish I had that?
See, that's
I'll
the thing.
start
There's
because
a
I think
lot.
we can all agree. I think we can all agree
Spider-Man,
is
yeah,
towards
absolutely.
the top of that list.
Oh,
That's
and
one of
see,
those things.
It's a lot for me. I'm with Jahan. I'm like, for me, it's Spider-Man, it's God of War, it's The Last of Us, it's Uncharted, it's Horizon, it's and even recently Final Fantasy 16. There's a lot. There's been a lot of great franchises on the Xbox side, and excuse me, on the PlayStation side that Xbox gamers have to be jealous of, and that you know, I don't think that PlayStation gamers are like, oh, but Halo, like they don't care. They don't care. They have great stuff.
Spider-Man, Horizon, and The Last of Us. Those three alone trump any exclusive that Xbox has. Starfield
not gonna
could
get-
put a dent in that, but it's not gonna. You definitely can't take that away from PlayStation. You would
You're
have
not going to get a huge argument out of me either.
Yeah.
I would love to see, you know, like stuff like Death Stranding. I thought was a big deal. You know, everyone was posting pictures of it, and everybody was talking about it coming out. And as an Xbox guy, we just kind of got to sit here and watch it happen. Ghost of Tsushima, you know, it was like, oh, an awesome samurai game. When's the last time we had one of those? Like back in the PlayStation 2 era, we haven't had an awesome samurai game ever, and we still don't have an awesome samurai game. So yeah, you're right. You know, to add on to what you guys are saying, I think there is a lot to be jealous of from the Xbox side,
and not so much
and
on
the
their
reason
side.
I was going to say the reason they don't care about Halo is because they still have Call of Duty, and if they didn't have Call of Duty, they might be like, give us Halo at least, give us something.
Yeah,
Basically, the thing that they have to be jealous of on the PlayStation side is Game Pass, is the service, not a game.
And yeah, that's a good point. Game Pass is an amazing service, and I really enjoy it a lot. I mean, you get to play a lot of stuff for free. It's pretty cool. You know, Redfall sucked, but at least I didn't pay for it. You know what I mean? Like, it was
I
free.
know this is stupid, but I really do like the user interface for the Xbox. I do think it's a lot more friendly and a lot easier to navigate and download stuff and create friend groups and invite people. I think Xbox has always been had a little bit more of an easier user interface.
That I will also agree with that. But yeah, as far as games go, PlayStation definitely has us beat for now. But Starfield could start turning that around, and then in the future, if COD ever does become exclusive, and even if it doesn't, even if we just get it for free on Game Pass when it comes out, that's still huge. I feel like they really
That is
need
huge.
to work on their
And I think-
exclusives. They have for a long time. They need a new Fable, and it better be good. They need all this other. They don't have any good IPs, man. And the ones that they did have, they've let rust in the corner. So
That's what it is you can't let your good IPs rust. Sometimes you're going to have a game that's not a hit. You're going to have your favorite Mario games and your least favorite. You're going to have some bad Kirby games and some awesome Sonic games. It's okay. It's okay to miss some. But you have to keep making them if you want them to be your flagship or you want them to be your IP. You can't just give up on them and throw them in the corner.
yeah.
It's a lot the same in show business and in wrestling. You know, even though these people are an older person from show business, you still want to see them cameo. You still want to bring it back. You know, you still want to keep it going. You have to keep them relevant and keep recycling and keep bringing these characters back and bringing these actors or your flagship people back. And yeah, who do we have in Microsoft besides Master Chief, which is just not a good flagship character?
He's not the best in my opinion either. But I mean, we have potential now with this new merger. We have potential. I know that they might not be your favorites, but we're getting the likes of like what Spyro and Crash Bandicoot. Those are iconic.
I think Spyro is a great mascot. He
Spyro's
just doesn't
great.
represent. He doesn't represent Xbox right now. They've got some work to do if he will represent Xbox. But I do think he's a great mascot.
I think he's great. I think he has the right attitude for the Xbox because he's like sassy. You know, like he's a smart mouth. He literally breathes fire. He's a cool character, and we're also getting the likes of Blizzard IPs, which that could be revolutionary if they play their cards right. But like, I don't know, they might squander the Blizzard IPs, man. They might, you know. I feel like they need to do something. Like World of Warcraft coming to Xbox would be crazy.
And like you would think they could have used Banjo and Kazooie, but those are just dormant characters. There's nothing going on there. It's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame because I love Banjo-Kazooie. And I don't know, man. It's just they have the potential. They're just mismanaging stuff. They have. I don't know why they don't push for exclusives and IP rebranding and that kind of thing. I don't understand why they don't do that. It doesn't make any sense. Everyone else does it. Nintendo does it better than anybody. PlayStation picked up on that and also does it great. Where are you at, Xbox? That's pretty much the question.
Well, I think that's a good stopping point for that decision because I know we kind of beat that drum a lot, but there's always new things to bring up when it comes to that, and this is definitely not going to be the last time we bring up Starfield in the next month. I can guarantee that. So
this also segues into my fresh picks because I have the only video game on our list, I believe.
I actually meant to add Final Fantasy 16 to mine because I beat it, but I don't really have that much to say. So, but please, yours is literally the biggest video game right now. Like this is a big deal.
I'm with you, Drew. I didn't put mine on my list. Everybody knows I've been playing the crap out of Exoprimal. I've still been playing the crap out of it. I'm like level 200. I've killed like 60,000 dinosaurs.
Yeah, and that's kind of been what has been keeping me going for the Starfield release, you know, because I've had a few great games. This has been a much better year for gaming, in my opinion, than last year was. I had Tears of the Kingdom, then Dead Island 2, now I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 blew up. It's huge. It got a lot of infamy because of certain things you can do in the game. You could turn on, like, adult mode or whatever. You can turn on nudity, and a bunch of sexy time options come up, but like it's not the whole focus of the game. It's just that's where it went viral, was you being able to do it with a druid in bear form.
I did see those headlines.
Yeah, people were losing their minds over it. But the game's
kind of similar to when Cyberpunk was coming out, and there's all the news about how you could customize your privates.
Yes,
in that
you can
game.
Also customize your privates in this game.
Where did we go wrong as gamers? How did we get here? In games, I still can't make my custom character fat. I still can't have a beard that looks proper or acts proper with physics. They just float around like they're made out of like wind and leaves. But we can put whatever genitals we want on whatever we want to watch them fuck a bear.
Yes, that is very true. You can put literally whatever genitals you want. It's cool. If you know, I don't want to get muddy down here with the genital options, but yes, you can pick your genitals in this game as well.
You brought this upon yourself by bringing this up first thing into your talking about this subject.
I know. Well, so at the very beginning of the game, there's a box you can check where you could be like, I don't want to see any of that stuff, and boom, you're done with it. But yeah, you can pick your genitals. Beyond that, the character creation, you have a lot of options when it comes to race, class, subclass, subrace, all that good stuff. You can play as the Githrizai, which you've never really been able to play with in these games before. They're an astral plane species with psychic powers. It's pretty cool. The story in this game is nuts. I don't want to spoil too much, but it involves the Mind Flayers, which are the Eldritch Eaters of intelligence and the controllers of sentient life. They are they're very evil, and they are invading the world. There's stuff going on. It's a very heavy story, but it's also some of the greatest gaming moments I've had were just in the opening sequence, where you're in this Mind Flayer spaceship, and you're being assailed by Githrazai on dragons. It's a truly crazy thing, but what really sets this game apart from all other RPGs is just the sheer amount of options you have when it comes to choices you can make. One of my favorite options I had so far was in the very beginning, where there's a body in a chair with its brain exposed, but it's calling out to you. The brain is calling out to you psychically. You can go investigate it. You don't have to. You can leave it alone. But you can like smash the brain because it's like evil. You can help it gestate. You can do all kinds of stuff. There's so many options. There's so many characters that you can add to your party. It's a very fun game. The story's great. The gameplay is purely Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition rules, which I think is one of the first times it's ever been implemented in a video game. I think Solasta actually has the honor of being the first, but this is definitely the first Dungeons and Dragons licensed game. I've played and read books that take place in Faerun a lot. This game has all the flavor. If you've ever been curious about one of the biggest settings in Dungeons and Dragons Faerun, this game will show it to you. With great locations being referenced, such as Baldur's Gate, obviously, Waterdeep, the Sword Coast, all kinds of things. There's a lot of planar travel. There's just crazy enemies. It's been a really nuts ride. And they say that the game has 17,000 plus possible endings. So that's insane. It has like a 100-hour campaign. It's really long. And so I'm very excited. I've been kind of hooked. It's been hard to put it down. It's one of those games where I look up and it's way too late and I need to go to bed for work. But yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 has been incredible. If you're a fan of RPGs, definitely check it out.
Yeah, I saw some tweets, I think, from one of the developers of the game who was just talking about how, yeah, this isn't traditional. It's not like you're playing Diablo here. Like, this is a D&D based game, so, you're working with dice, quote unquote, more or less. So you can have misses, and, it's all about how it rolls. And what you were saying, like, with the brain situation in Baldur's Gate 3, like, you every situation has a lot of ways you can get around it. So if you're struggling to get through something one way, try something outside of the box, try something different, and that can really work for you. So when I started hearing these things, like I knew this game was going to be a big deal, but the more and more stories that come out of it, I'm like, man, I really want to play this. I don't have a PC that can support it. So I'm probably not going to be able to wait until this is available on Xbox. I will probably end up buying the PlayStation version of this game when it's made available soon.
Yeah,
Does the PlayStation version have couch co-op? Or is that just going to be an Xbox thing that their guys are working on?
I don't know. I don't know any of those details.
Yeah,
Drew.
The game is fully co-op online, which is really cool. But so was the original, not the original, but Baldur's Gate 2 Shadow of Amn is one of my favorite games of all time. We used to get our computers together and LAN that, so we'd have LAN parties. Also, it had dial-up internet connectivity back in the day. But that was one of my favorite games of all time. This game is definitely a worthy successor. I can't suggest it enough. It is turn-based combat. I think you can turn it to real-time, but holy crap, that would be intense. Yeah, it's very fun. Lots of options. It's kind of mind-boggling. I love that sometimes you can just fail at a check, and you don't get to do it again. You have to deal with those consequences, and it's very interesting.
I dig it. Yeah, I'm excited for this to be more widely available. I know it's already been bashing down the Steam records for concurrent players at launch and everything. So, yeah, this game's a big deal. Baldur's Gate 3. Is that what it's up to now?
Yeah, I saw the developers say that they thought it had peaked in beta. They didn't know if it was even going to sell any additional copies. and they peaked at 100,000 during the pre, and now they're 816, I think was the last count on Sunday. So we'll see if it gets higher this weekend. But that puts them at the 9th highest spot of all time on Steam.
That's crazy.
Wow.
It's worth it, man. There's a lot of streamers streaming it. People are having a lot of fun with it. It's very
Drew,
fun.
from what I'm reading, there will be split screen co-op for the PlayStation version, which is out already. I think it came out the same day as the PC version.
I think they're still actively working on it. I think it's supposed to come out next month or so. I'm trying to fact check this as we're sitting here.
Yeah, right.
Look. Yeah.
I just Googled.
Yeah.
It says August 3rd.
It also
that
says
right?
9. I also see it on 9/6 on cooptimist.com.
Yeah, it's 6th of September is what I'm seeing, which is hilarious because that's the same day Starfield comes out.
Yep, that's Starfield Day, so it gives PlayStation people something to do. They'll all be playing Baldur's Gate while we'll be in Starfield. Smart.
Yeah, everything I'm seeing is saying September 6th for Baldur's Gate 3 on PlayStation.
That's pretty
Oh
smart.
boy. All right. Well, just so we can wrap up the conversation of games real quick too, I'll just mention, because I brought up last week that I had been playing Final Fantasy 16. I actually beat the main story of Final Fantasy 16. It took me probably a grand total of around 55 hours to beat the game, which is pretty lengthy. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought the game had a really great story. There are some things that were kind of weird that now in hindsight I'm like, oh, that kind of stinks. I don't know how much y'all like party control or outfitting your party with gear and those kinds of things. Final Fantasy 16 almost has more of a system like with a Kingdom Hearts game. You know how like if you're playing Kingdom Hearts, you show up in the Aladdin world and like Aladdin's there fighting with you, and then you go to Peter Pan world and Peter Pan's fighting with you, but you don't ever get to like outfit them with gear or do anything like that. They're just there. That's how the party system works in Final Fantasy 16. You have certain characters with you depending on what quests you're doing, and you don't ever get to change their gear or do anything with them. You can't control them. They just act on their own, and they're just either with you or they're not, and that's it. Which is I kind of kept waiting in the game for like, when's this system going to be introduced so I can do more here, and it just never happens.
It's quite a departure for the series. I mean, the series is all about party dynamics, swapping out party members, changing their gear, picking their spells, all that stuff. Like that's a huge departure.
I think the reason why they got away from that a little bit with this, and just pardon me, I'm going to get into some weird, some nitty gritty of Final Fantasy 16 and some pretty nerdy stuff, right? So in the world of Final Fantasy 16, there are certain people, that few and far between, but certain people that are just born with the ability that they are considered to be a dominant. And what a dominant is somebody who can summon a giant godlike being that is essentially it's called their icon, E-I-K-O-N, icon. And they're usually like different. Some of them are different, like mythological gods. Like, for example, there's a girl, she's the dominant of Shiva, and she can become Shiva, and Shiva's a giant ice lady and shoots ice. And there's one guy who's the dominant of Odin, and he can summon Odin, who rides in on a giant horse, and he's very strong. And there's Titan is another dominant, and so on and so forth. So you play as a character in the game who ends up being the dominant of Ifrit. And he also has the ability to absorb other people's dominance, which is they've never seen before. So as you do that in the game, you unlock these different abilities of different dominants that you can then change in and out. So you can be like, I'm going to use my loadout of Shiva and Ifrit and Bahamut, and you get the abilities of those characters, but then you can at any point change, like, I want to change out Bahamut for Titan. So you're already dealing with 3 different skill sets for your own character with basically different magic that you can change out. So that's like getting into the nitty gritty of it. It's actually a really cool combat system that I enjoy, but it just means that it takes away from you working with other party members and what they can do, because you can kind of do it all. But yeah, so that's that. That's getting into the nitty gritty of Final Fantasy 16.
I heard they really get into the summons in this game. So It's interesting.
They do. The summons, the icons are a big part of the storyline. It really all centers around them, and I really liked it. It felt like it was kind of this like back to basics, super Final Fantasy. It's a super high fantasy storyline, um, that I really enjoyed. So yeah, that's Final Fantasy 16. It is a PlayStation 5 exclusive, and not even a timed exclusive. I think that is where it will live forever, is on the PlayStation consoles.
Fair enough.
How many
Let's see. Is
hours
that
did
it
you
for
say-
games?
How many hours did you say you put into that?
I beat it in about 55 hours.
So far, I've put 4 days, 12 hours, and 8 minutes into Exoprimal.
The game's fun. I put a lot of
Oh,
hours in
boy.
there too. I still haven't beaten it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've been playing while you've been playing that. That's all. I already talked about it. We got more suits coming. I'm excited. More guns.
Yeah.
Next.
The Dominant kind of sounds like the Dragonborn from Skyrim.
Yeah, kind of. I'm trying to think of something else. Like, it's almost like.
The Dova King, dog.
Oh, I can think of something else.
I think of a good comparison.
I can think of something else. Res Dogs is on Hulu, and it's season 3.
It's a good segue.
And as you know, I loved season 1 and season 2 of Res Dogs. Somehow season 3 takes the magic and makes it even funnier and more magical. Res Dogs is not just a funny show. Warning to everyone that's going to watch Res Dogs. It's great and I love it, but suicide is a main theme of the show. They're teenagers, and one of their best friends killed himself right before season 1 started, and they're teenagers dealing with that fallout. That's the core of the story, so if that's a trigger for you, skip the show. It is an emotional trip. It's supposed to be an emotional trip. The show makes you laugh and cry and feel. And one of my favorite parts has been the Native American spirit guide, who is sort of the comedic relief throughout. I don't want to spoil too much about Knife Man, but he is hilarious. But in season 3, he is not just a spirit guide, he's also sort of the narrator of the season for the first 2 episodes. So we get even more of the already hilarious character doing stupid stuff. They figured out a way to put him more into the story and give us even more. All of the actors are getting better. They're becoming better actors as they go. They're young teenage actors, and they're relative nobodies when season 1 starts. By season 3, the performances are great, and I'm in, and I want to see Bear's story. That's the main character. I want to see what journey they're taking him on. At this point, he is a very interesting character. I'm totally into Res Dogs. Watch Res Dogs season 3. Get all caught up. They're all on Hulu. It's a quick watch. They're short episodes and they're short seasons. I think they're just 9 episodes or something.
They're pretty easy watch, man. I watched, obviously I watched the first 2 seasons. I didn't know season 3 was out already. I knew it was coming. So I'm excited to watch that.
It just popped out. They released 2 episodes. They started with 2. So, yep. So you get a
I'll
weekly
catch up in
release
no
on
time.
it. Oh, yeah. You'll be caught up.
Yeah,
And,
Res Dogs
also,
is great, man. Res Dogs, man, that show, like, it doesn't happen all the time. I do get emotional from movies and TV shows. That show made me cry a couple times, man. That show is intense, but it has a lot of heart, man.
I've had to take breaks from Res Dogs because it's hit me so hard. I've had to take a step away and come back. But also weekly releases, and on Hulu is Only Murders in the Building. It feels like we're doing a replay episode here because when we started the podcast 3 years ago, I was talking about Res Dogs and Only Murders in the Building. 'Tis the season again, gentlemen. Season 3 of Only Murders in the Building is out. It is also very funny. It's got that guy in it. What's that guy's name? The guy with the face.
Martin Short.
Played
Paul Rudd?
Paul Rudd.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Paul Rudd. Yeah. Paul Rudd is in season 3. He is he gets killed right at the end of season 2. He's on stage as like the main actor for this play. So season 3 opens up with it, and I'm wondering. I've watched the first 2 episodes. Only 2 episodes came out, just like Res Dogs. But the first 2 episodes of Only Murders in the Building, Paul Rudd has had cameos in both. And so I'm wondering how long he's going to be throughout this season. But he is hilarious. He's a gem, as usual. I love Paul Rudd. I told Annie that everyone has a crush on Paul Rudd, or maybe it's just me, and I'm speaking for everyone, but also everyone has a crush on Paul Rudd, and I'll take no questions at this time.
No, Paul Rudd is
Only
like the
murders.
definition of fuckable. So
Yeah, he's the best. I love Paul Rudd. He's so funny in this, and of course Martin Short. Right, you got the whole cast back.
Has
If you
Meryl
like
Streep
Only
been in it
Murders-
yet? I know she's in the new season. Have you gotten her yet?
Yes, she is, and it's really funny because she's in the play where Paul Rudd gets killed, but she's like they do her casting, and she's like a vanilla, no name, never had a role her whole life, tried to be an actress since she was like a little teenage girl, and now she's an old woman who's literally never had a single role, and this is her first chance. And that's her character. And so seeing her and being like, that's Meryl Streep, bro. Like that's not some no-name actress. And then
Yeah.
watching her kind of play this vanilla lady is a lot of fun. It's such a bland role that you couldn't have given it to anybody. You have to really give it to a master. And in 2 episodes in, she's great with it.
Vanilla Lady is my favorite Ben & Jerry's flavor.
I'm glad to hear that. I like Cherry Garcia.
Cherry Garcia is
But
fun
that's
to
all-
say.
That's all I've got for my Hulu shows. Does anybody else have anything on Hulu they want to talk about? And then take it away. Take me to what you guys are watching.
Let's see. Well, we can talk about How To with John Wilson because I see y'all both have it on there, and I also watched the newest episode.
Speaking of season 3s, that's 3 season 3s on my list. Season 3 I have to with John Wilson. What a happy day it was for me when you texted and told me this show was back.
Gary, I've come around so much on this show that like when I watched the first episode, I watched. I happened to like get in bed and turn on Max and saw that the season had premiered that Friday night, and so again this past Friday night when I got in bed on and the second episode was up because I think they post at like 10 o'clock or 8 o'clock or something on Friday evenings now. I was excited, and like this is I haven't even seen all the episodes of this show, like all the episodes before, but watching the new episodes, I'm like, is this the best show on TV? That's genuinely how I feel
Yes.
about it. Like
Yes,
it's that good. It is
best
so
show
good.
on TV. Yes, it is. It is. How To with John Wilson is so funny.
It's very
and
funny.
It's because of the editing. It's because of the dubs. It's because of the camera shots that he gets. It's this show that you have to pay attention to, and it's so bizarre, but so funny.
He gets such good
yeah.
shots that I'm starting to think that he's doing horrible crimes to get these shots because I'm like, did you do that? Like, did you make that building collapse? Because why were you
Lives in New
filming
York.
it?
Just lives in New York, and
Oh.
everything's terrible in New York.
He did it in New Orleans too. But same story, I guess there. But yeah, I finally
I love that format that he's like doing a sort of a documentary and will just go anywhere right now. He just, gets on a plane and then he's in Florida, or he gets in a car and then he's in New Orleans. The show is just like attention deficit disorder, the show.
he's a
And
crazy person.
he is a crazy person.
crazy
Yeah,
person.
without a doubt.
I can't tell if he just gets incredible footage and then crafts a narrative after the fact, or if he really does start with the idea of like, this is
I
what it's going to
can't
be about,
tell
and I'm going to
either.
see where this takes me.
Okay, I can answer this for you guys because I've watched the show over and over and over. I've seen every episode a bunch. So he has been a documentarian his whole life. And every single day when he goes home, he has notebooks that are the little tiny grid print composition notebooks. And he writes down what he did every single hour, every single day, and what he filmed.
I have
So he's
seen
a
one of the
crazy
older
person.
episodes where he did show the books. That's in the
So
first
all
season. I
of
remember
that-
seeing that.
All of that's in the database. So whenever he's going to film stuff, he can just search through his database of his records that he has because it's digitalized now. And so he can go pull all this stock footage that he's created for 20 years or whatever, living around New York, and put together a narrative with that. So he's just always filming. He's probably just got home right now from filming and writing down all these different things he saw today so that in the future he can dub over them.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah, so I finally started watching this show because you're talking about it a lot. I watched the first 2 episodes. This guy is unhinged. I love it. It's really funny.
Did you start with the newest season or the
No.
first 2 episodes of the first season?
First 2 episodes, first season.
Okay.
And his mom happened to walk by and look into the room right as the dudes were circle jerking each other with the jerk off machine.
Yes. They're doing an episode about scaffolding, and my mom comes home and is like, "Hey, how's it going? What you watching?" And then I'm like, "Oh, just watching this show." And then I look up, and there's 2 dudes strapped to a scaffold, being like tip to tip rubbed off by a third dude. And I was like, "Oh, okay."
I love that. I've never thought to give anybody a "your mom might walk in" warning. I'm so past remembering to give that warning, and like the fact that happened made me laugh out
It was
loud.
such an
I was dying.
aberration from the rest of the show. Like, no, there's no other pornography in this thing. And then, like, my mom walks in, boom.
Because it truly does come across like sometimes John Wilson's just walking the streets of New York and he sees these things happening and he catches it on video just because he's in the right place at the right time, or perhaps in the wrong place at the wrong time, really. But
And he's just not afraid to walk up and ask, "What's going on? Can I film this? Can I be like, tell me about this? What's going on here?" He's just he'll just walk into any situation. He's totally fearless.
there's
And very good at making people feel awkward.
It's very
this.
funny.
I love How To with John Wilson. You're not going to get a bigger, brighter praise from me for a show. Like you said, Drew, you wonder, is this the best show? Yeah, maybe. It might be the best show. I love How To with John Wilson.
I like how he'll do camera tricks to like make things seem different than they really are. A lot of times, like he had way too many pillows on his hotel room bed, and so at one point he filmed like his whole room was covered in pillows, and like you could like it seemed obvious that he must be moving them around and changing the camera angle, so it looks like there's way too many. He had to like crawl over them to get to the bathroom. It was just like ridiculous, and there's a lot of stuff like that, and it's just really funny.
So that's How To with John Wilson. Speaking of Max, Gary, did you watch the season premiere of Winning Time yet? The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty?
No, I did not. Annie and I talked about it, and I'm not sure I need to watch another season of Winning Time. I loved the first season, and I thought it was great, and I'm not sure there needed to be a second season. And I don't know if I need to see more of the debauchery. I get it. I got this. I get the story. And I think it almost could have been sped up a little bit in the first season. I think they could have covered more ground.
Well, I know over a year ago when the first season was airing and you and I were talking about it, we kind of, that was part of the conversation because the show, as it was presented and what I thought it was going to be, was I thought it was going to be a limited series that these 10 episodes were going to span like pretty much the 80s Showtime era of the Lakers, and we were going to see the whole, era in the show, and instead we saw the first year of that era in the first season.
That's right. But great performances from Jason Segel and Adrian Brody, and across the board, man, everybody was great.
And season 2, the premiere. So I don't want to like spoil it for you necessarily. Should you want to watch it, it's more of the same of what we've come to expect from the show, and it's good. Like I enjoyed it, but it's definitely, I don't know what the best word is for it. Like it almost comes across a little bit sloppy at times, the way it jumps around. You know, in the first season, you see a cut forward to, it's all about Magic Johnson getting drafted and like his rookie season with the Lakers, but they do cut forward within the first episode or two to like his HIV diagnosis and and things there, so like you see the future, but like obviously then the rest of that season just covers the first year of his career at the Lakers, so like it never catches up to that point. You just kind of get a random flash forward, and you kind of get that here too, where the show actually starts off, their season 2 starts off with a great scene, I think of like the 1984 season where the Lakers and the Boston Celtics are against each other in the NBA Finals, and it's game 1, and the Lakers beat the Celtics in Boston, and so they're basically getting chased out of the arena by angry fans or whatever. But it has set up that like this is a few years after the first season. Both teams have won multiple rings, and now like this is a showdown between the Lakers and Boston. I'm like, oh, okay, so this is it. We're cutting forward a few years here in this season, and then then it cuts back to the ending of their first season and starting their second season with the team, and it's like sometimes it feels a little sloppy the way that the show jumps around with its like not showing things chronologically, which like I don't mind. It just
like they don't know how many seasons they're gonna get, so they just try
yeah.
to tell, like, you can't tell Magic Johnson's story without mentioning the HIV diagnosis, right? So they had to shove it into season 1, and then now they're to the point where why is Larry Bird that important to the story? We have to show that they have all these rings. Okay, now we can cut back again. Now you can know why their rivalry matters.
Right, and like oh gosh, and I'm not like the Lakers historian by any means, so let me pull this up because I want to make sure I get names right. Like in the scene at that future finals game with Boston and Lakers, like it is clear at that point in the cut forward that Adrian Brody, who plays Pat Riley, he's the head coach at that point. He's the head coach of the Lakers during that finals, and like now cut back and still Jason Segel as Paul Westhead is still the head coach with Pat Riley as his assistant, and like it's kind of setting that up because like we all know Pat Riley is going to become the head coach, but when and how does it happen? So there's things there, but I'm like that's stuff that I knew in the first season was going to happen. So why do you have to like keep teasing this stuff? I don't know. It's weird when you play with real history here. That being said, there's a deep roster of characters here and a really great cast, and so just in the first episode you start seeing these people show up again that I forgot, where I'm like, oh, I forgot. Well, obviously like John C. Reilly is great and he's back in that form off right from the get-go, which is great. But then it's like Jason Clarke shows up and Adrian Brody and Jason Segel and Gabby Hoffman and like all these different people. The Michael Chiklis,
also great 70s 80s costumes, great cars, great backgrounds and sets. The show really is a period piece. They do a great job with it, and even the camera quality and some of the camera work looks dated, which I think is a really nice touch. But even with all that, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll watch season 2. I might just watch it for their performances. I'm not really interested in the story. They told it as far as I'm concerned. They showed us sort of the point of this is a day in the life of the Lakers and what that dynasty was like. And I feel like I've seen that already. I don't know how that's going to change these next couple of seasons.
Yeah, it's interesting, but there's Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar have kind of criticized the show in real life, for inaccuracies and stuff, which it's fine. Like I've come to expect that. Like obviously it's going to dramatize things, but like I do enjoy watching it and the performances, like you said, and I think it's just such an all-star cast. But some of the events in it, I'm like, why are you trying to make me care about them taking this arena and using it for other things to earn money? Like we all know that happened, and this happens with everything. I get that Jerry Buss like kind of created the idea of doing this, but seeing it play out, I'm like, how it can only be so interesting, which I think is getting into like deeper nitpicky things. But overall, I do enjoy it, or I enjoyed the first episode. Man, the first episode's long though; it's like an hour and 10 minutes. Like it's a pretty lengthy premiere, but they get through a lot in it. So yeah, so that's Winning Time. The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty Season 2. And I think that's about it for TV shows. Have some movies to talk about here. A couple of new releases from this week. Jahan, you saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem?
I did indeed.
Nice.
Went to Alamo Draft House and got to eat their special Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles menu. It was awesome.
Their menu seemed insane for this. What strange item did you get? Like I saw they had pizza with like pickles and pepperonis and all kinds of strange stuff.
I got the one that had like broccoli on it. The Mutant Mayhem pizza was really good, but they also had like popcorn with like pizza seasoning and pepperoni in it.
Right.
They had all kinds. Yeah, pickle pizza, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Well, that being said, what did you think of the movie?
I liked it. it was very visually interesting. The art style is phenomenal. Much in the vein of Into the Spider-Verse, but not quite on that level. It doesn't have the variety for sure, but it almost looks stop motion, but it wasn't. It almost had like a weird cell shaded quality. It was very cool to look at. It's definitely a very different story when it comes to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's a large departure from the canon, which I'm fine with. The ending was fine, but I feel like it really doesn't lead to a good sequel. The way they left things off.
Did you stay for the mid-credit scene? Did you see the mid-credit scene?
I saw one of the scenes. Yeah.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah, I did stay.
It alludes to things for the future, I
Yeah.
guess. But it's like if you had to guess what it was going to be, it's going to be what you guessed.
Of course, it was going to be that. Yeah.
Right.
It was a cool story. I would give it, like 6.5, maybe 7. It was good. Totally watchable. It's definitely a lot of this like animated media and like these kid movies and kid shows, like they have a lot for adults. A lot of stuff that is just for the adults watching that the kids don't understand. This definitely seemed geared towards a completely different generation. It was definitely for the much younger kids.
Is this Mutant Mayhem, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, is it better than the past 2 live-action ones? Because those, I thought, were very hard to watch.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
those sucked. But
yeah, I thought those were really bad. If you guys want to defend them, that's fine, but hard to watch.
I'll defend the original 3. I'll defend those.
Defend the time-traveling samurai one.
That one is fine. The other 2 are great. The second of the original series, is my favorite. That movie's just solidly good.
I'm glad to get your perspective on this, Jahan, because this is definitely like your mileage may vary kind of franchise. I've had a discussion with Sean about this, who he's like a diehard TMNT fan, so he's like all about this movie, 5 out of 5, and I'm like a little bit more tempered. I'm like with you, like I'm like a 7 out of 5, like or 7 out of 5, 7 out of 10, an 8 on a good day, but like yeah, I'm kind of with you. I don't have much nostalgia for TMNT in general. Like, it's just not one of the ones I gravitated to as a kid. But I've seen all of the media, right? And it makes sense. Like, they've done live action. They've done live action CG hybrid. They've done animated. And now they're doing a new form of animation. And I do think the animation is the biggest... is like the star of this movie. Like, I think if you go see it for the animation style. That's this like kind of imperfect blend that's looks like graffiti meets like sketchbook doodles. That really works for the franchise. But like, it's a pretty fun movie. I don't think it's gonna make a diehard TMNT fan out of somebody that's not already one.
It might for a kid. I feel like there was a lot of stuff because I saw some behind the scenes stuff, and Seth Rogen really let the voice actors for the Turtles improvise a lot, so you get a lot of really genuine younger generation conversation, and I understood a lot of those references because I'm obsessed with TikTok, but I feel like they'll go over the typical adult's head. If you're a fan of animation, it's worth checking out just for the art style. Absolutely.
Kids will love this movie. I agree with you. Kids will love it.
And
it is kid appropriate.
It's appropriate. You'll be able to stomach it. It's not hard to watch as an adult. It's just not for you. And this is one of... Oftentimes when I'm watching animated stuff, I'm like, oh no, this had plenty for me. This one, not so much. But I am a big Ninja Turtles guy. I love Ninja Turtles. Always have. Always will. And yeah, I do have the nostalgia. This isn't the same, man. I feel like for nostalgia to really take effect, it has to harken back. This is new. This is uncharted territory. The story with Splinter is completely different from the canon, which is why, because I had complained previously that Jackie Chan got played got cast to play a rat who's canonically Japanese.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But in this movie, it actually made sense and it was fine. It didn't matter. And so that was that they fixed that complaint, but at the same time they changed the story a lot, and it became something that it just never that it wasn't. This is not the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles we grew up with at all. It's for a new audience, and I can appreciate that. But yeah, I would say it's definitely fresh, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's definitely not my favorite movie this year, or it's definitely not my favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. None of that.
Well, I think what's really interesting. So I also saw Meg 2, which is the other new release from this past weekend, and I don't think it's going to surprise anybody for me to say like it's not very good. The worst thing about it is that it's kind of boring and it doesn't do anything that you want it to do until about the last like 20 to 30 minutes. And that stuff is good and funny. And if you want to see Jason Statham, fight a giant megalodon with a propeller, helicopter propeller blade, like that happens in this movie, but you have to wade through, an hour and a half to get to that, which is unfortunate.
What I want.
This should have been sharks versus dinosaurs, like I said.
That would have been dope. No, see, yeah,
that is just the opening.
I have a similar suggestion. What I want is Sharkpocalypse, which would be the Meg versus Ghost Shark versus Sharknado. I would watch that movie.
I just think the thing that has surprised me is this past weekend's box office was kind of insane. Because the first thing it's worth noting, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles opened on Wednesday, so I'm not sure what the full 5-day for that movie was, because it probably made a decent amount of money on Wednesday and Thursday screenings, especially because there's a lot of kids still out of school, so they might have gone there. For its 3-day of the Friday through Sunday, it kind of underperformed. And the box office was Barbie was still number 1. Meg 2 came in at number 2 at the box office. Oppenheimer at number 3, and Turtles came in at number 4. So Oppenheimer and Barbie, in their third weekend of release, both did better than this new Turtles movie, which kind of shocked me because I thought the trailers at least looked good, and I felt like there was hype for the new TMNT, but like apparently not. Like it didn't do gangbusters. Meg 2 did better in the release. Again, Turtles had 2 days before that it was open, so I don't know exactly how it did in the full 5-day. But I guess I underestimate how much people like seeing giant sharks, because I feel like I barely saw any marketing for Meg 2 leading up to it, and then like all of a sudden it came out.
You know who wants to see that movie? My mother. My mom likes those kinds of movies a lot.
That's great.
She likes creature features. She likes big monsters. She thinks they're fun. She's a big Godzilla fan.
Well, you get Megs at the beginning of this one, and then there's a big lull where they're kind of sidelined, and then they're back at the end. So I guess that's the thing to be aware of in this one.
Sounds like something you don't need to go see in theaters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hate to be that guy, because I'm the biggest theater advocate that there is. At least on this show, and yeah, even I'm like, yeah, you can give it a
sounds like you could put this one on
skip.
And kind of mess around on your phone, and then fast forward to the end, and then kind of mess around on your phone again towards the end. And then that's this movie.
Yeah, it's funny you say Barbie did so well, because when we were going to see Turtles, we got in the elevator from the parking garage, and like 3 women got in, all wearing pink, and I looked at them and I went, Barbie? And they were all like, yeah, and like we all kind of
they're like, you think?
Yeah, they were all. And then there was a bunch of other women and men wearing pink in the theater, and I was like, oh, okay.
So, I know this is gonna sound really dumb, and maybe you guys don't follow my logic here, and it's okay if you don't. I'm just gonna get it off my chest. I tried to watch the new Super Mario Brothers movie, and I thought it was terrible. I thought they did an awful job with like their gags and their asides, and they didn't do a very good job implementing any of their their nods or anything. They just kind of slapped these stickers on that was like, bam, there's a joke, bam, there's a joke, haha. You could see them in the background. I feel like there was not a lot of setup for any of the jokes in Mario, and a lot of it was just me getting slapped in the face with stupid things. Whereas I thought Barbie was a very smart, movie with a lot of really funny gags and setup, and they used a lot of their kind of Barbie things to really push the movie and make it a really fun, watchable movie. I thought that Mario was just a lot of loud, awful color, and
Did you finish Mario, or is that just your first
hell
impression?
no, that was my first impression. I'm not gonna finish that. It was hard to watch. Barbie wasn't hard to watch. Barbie was a blast. Mario was not, and like I said, maybe you guys follow my logic, maybe you don't, but to me, they're both based on existing IPs, and Barbie is a great example of how to do it, and Mario is an example of how not to do it for me.
I feel like in this comparison, it's at least fair to point out that Barbie was, I feel, made with like for adults. Like I feel like it's a much more grown up movie. I feel and Mario was absolutely a kids movie. So like uh obviously Barbie's going to be, more smarter.
I think if I had seen Mario first, I might have liked it more. And I think because I've seen Barbie, I have this expectation of what you can do now with an IP. And my expectation now is a lot different than it was a few months ago.
High expectations can always ruin something, even if it's good. But I feel like Mario really gets good when he actually makes the journey to the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That movie picks up once you get to the Mushroom Kingdom, about 20 minutes in.
It has a lot of flavor, man. I know that we talked about it on the show already, and I was very high on Mario. I thought it was great, but I don't know. We do definitely have a lot of.
There's definitely a better chance of me going back to watch Winning Time Season 2 before I go back and give Mario another shot.
There's a lot of things that you find grating and annoying that I enjoy. So, I mean,
That's true.
It's probably just...
That's true. No, but people have told me that a lot, that just because I hate something doesn't mean it's bad. But if I like something, that usually means it's good.
That's always been my logic for Gary critiques.
That's
I hate a lot of stuff I shouldn't hate.
Okay, well, moving on. I've got just a couple more things to talk about, and we can wrap up. One is a movie. I actually watched this on VOD, on Apple TV. It's a newer movie called You Hurt My Feelings. This is a movie that's directed by a female director. Her name's Nicole Hofstetter, who I've heard of her before. She most recently was in headlines because they brought her on that movie, The Last Duel, Gary, which you and I watched. The Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, and Adam Driver, Ridley Scott movie. And they brought Nicole Hofstetter in to kind of help with the female perspective and the writing there. And but she's also a director in her own right. And she directed a movie back in 2013, kind of a rom-com that starred Julia Louis-Dreyfus and James Gandolfini. That was a movie that I caught. Actually, this is like a strange story. I caught it on a cruise that I was on about 10 years ago. And it was a day that I had been like kind of seasick, wasn't feeling well, retired to my room early, and watched it in bed and was super pleasantly surprised. Like, thought it was a really great, charming movie. So that's enough said from 10 years ago. She has a new movie out with Julia Louis-Dreyfus again. And it's like a comedy drama. But I really liked the subject matter, or what it was. I liked its angle more than I liked the movie itself, which I don't know if that even makes sense. But basically, it's about Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character. She's married, and she is a writer, and she's struggling with her newest book, but her husband's very supportive, and he's like, I really like the book, and if your editor doesn't like it, that your editor's crazy, you need to find a new editor, somebody with better taste, yada yada. Then Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character's out with her sister, and they see her husband at a store, and so they go to surprise him and sneak up on him, and he's talking to his friend, and he's just like, yeah, man, my wife's new book is terrible. I really don't like it. Like, I'm trying to be supportive, but I really don't like it. She overhears this, and then it becomes a whole conversation, and the whole conversation that the movie's trying to have with the audience is about, like, the little white lies that you tell your partner or significant other in order not to hurt their feelings, or things like that. Just little things that you tell them that to be supportive, that maybe they're like little white lies, but how that can affect your relationship and things there, which I think that conversation there is really interesting. And the movie does a good job exploring those themes. But it's kind of like a little quaint movie. There's some cameo. The husband, Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character's husband in the movie, is a therapist in You Hurt My Feelings, and he's like a pretty bad one at that. And he has some recurring therapy sessions in the movie where David Cross and Amber Tamblyn are a married couple that have been coming to see him for a while, and they're struggling. And David Cross is just an absolute gem in this movie when he does show up and steals the scene whenever he's on there, in a few different scenes. So like, I just always enjoyed David Cross's presence. But yeah, this movie was like
brother. I don't know if you know my older brother Thomas. He is a spitting image of David Cross. Looks exactly like him.
He is. I would agree with this. And I think he's actually advocated for that too, that he's a fan of that comparison. So, we can say that here. But yeah, this movie's fine. But I thought that the themes it was exploring were like more interesting than the movie itself. If that makes sense. I would still probably certify it fresh, but like not like overwhelmingly fresh. It's just like pretty fresh.
There's a Best Buy date on it.
Yeah,
The themes of this next one that you watched are not that fresh. I also sicked my eyes on American Nightmare. I think I watched it for about an hour. I don't know if I finished it.
I was wondering if you had watched this. I watched a wrestling documentary on Peacock, and this is called American Nightmare Becoming Cody Rhodes. And Cody Rhodes does have a really interesting personal story in professional wrestling if you were a fan or followed. Here's the thing. WWE has really great produced documentaries. They're really well edited, really well done, and they have access to so much footage that their documentaries really are top notch. And like my wife, who watches some wrestling with me, she always likes when I watch the wrestling documentaries because she gets kind of into them.
I don't understand how Cody Rhodes could have a documentary called American Nightmare when his last name's Rhodes. Like why isn't it like the roads behind me, or why isn't there a road pun? I missed opportunity. So.
Well, you see, his for those who don't know, I won't go too long on this because I know we're trying to wrap it up soon. But Cody Rhodes' father was a professional wrestler known as the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. He was a very famous wrestler in his own right back in the 80s and early WWE era. And but Dusty Rhodes, one of the things is that he was he won championships, but the actual WWE championship is one that eluded him. He never won the big one. He came close to it, but he never won it. So he's always been one of those wrestlers that's considered like one of the best to never win the big title. And that's always been Dusty Rhodes' legacy. And so his son, Cody Rhodes, became a wrestler in his own right. In the late 2000s eras when he was kind of coming into wrestling. And, he kind of lived under the shadow of his father for a while and had to try to figure out his own gimmick and his own career. And so the documentary goes into a lot of his early WWE career and how he dealt with that and tried to find himself. And he left WWE in the 2010s because he was struggling and he wasn't getting the opportunities that he wanted to get. And Cody Rhodes famously left WWE. It was a very highly publicized exit at that time, if you were a wrestling fan. And he went on the independent circuit for a while and became the hottest draw in independent wrestling that everybody wanted to see. And he kind of made every correct move. And then he teamed up with some other pretty famous independent wrestlers in the Young Bucks, and they did a huge independent wrestling pay-per-view that drew the biggest independent wrestling crowd that they've ever had. And then he went on to help form a new rival wrestling promotion in AEW that rivaled WWE and still rivals WWE. AEW's thriving pretty well on its own. And then there was some shocking news about a year and a half ago that Cody, who'd helped found AEW and had like an executive title with the company, that potentially was a free agent again. And that there was a chance he was coming back to WWE after having like a pretty,
I would say,
a rough,
successful. He was gone.
He was wildly successful, and he left WWE maybe not like on the best of terms. He asked for his release, and he was granted it, and but he was kind of became this undeniable star and came back to WWE. So that's the Cody Rhodes story on paper, and now he's a top guy in WWE. He's in the place that he always wanted to be in, and he's got a character that works. And when you watch the documentary, especially Gary, when it gets into the Stardust stuff, like, man, that stuff was rough. Like, I forgot how bad some of that was. It was really rough.
So maybe I'm just a cynic, maybe I'm being cynical, but watching that, the whole thing was he was like, I just didn't want to be known as Dusty's kid. I didn't just want to be Dusty's son, and I had to find my own way. So I didn't want to come in as Dusty's son, and so then I did the Stardust thing, but then I didn't like that, so then I left, and then I dyed my hair blonde and became the American Nightmare, Dusty's son, and then I came back, and now I'm Dusty's son, the American Nightmare. So it's sort of like the whole thing that he pushed against becoming in the beginning. He just became that anyways, to the point where he even dyes his hair blonde. He is Dusty's kid, and he even goes by a similar moniker. And so for him to have kind of pushed away from that from all those years and feel like he had to earn something for him to turn around and take the same gimmick, I thought was really weird. I thought it was a weird career path for him. I think he's interesting, and I love wrestling documentaries. But it was really hearing the words come out of his mouth where I don't want to just be known as Dusty's kid. And then he reinvents himself as Dusty's kid.
I think he
really liked Cody Rhodes.
I feel like he justifies it really well, though, Gary. Like, I'm sorry I cut you off, Jahan, but like, I just want to give like the counterpoint to what Gary's saying, because I think that in the latter part of the documentary, Cody justifies that stuff pretty well. Basically, in saying that, like, he really needed to go out and make a name for himself and do the independent circuit, and once he had finally gotten over on his own, then he felt like he could go back to some of those things that, like, he did always want to do as a tribute to his father, but he held back from doing because he felt like he needed to be his own person. And then once he kind of got over and found his own spot, then he could do the dyed hair and things there. The difference is, right now, Cody's story in WWE is kind of one of the best storylines that's currently going, and he's gonna win the title. Like, they're setting it up, it's gonna happen, and he's gonna win the title that Dusty was never able to win.
And off screen, real things that really happened. Vince McMahon took a private jet to Cody Rhodes' house and asked him to come back to WWE with a very large contract. So, yeah, Vince didn't do that to not give him a belt. Cody didn't agree to not become a champion one day. Yeah, it's kind of the whole thing is, and again, to harken back to his story is my dad didn't get the belt, I'm going to get the belt. And so really the whole I am my dad's son is his entire character, and it is his whole story. I think it's funny that he went on this journey first. He certainly came back a more entertaining and better wrestler, no doubt. And maybe he did need to go on that journey, but he was paired with Randy Orton when he came in. And if he would have just stuck around and, yeah, sure, the Stardust gimmick was bad, but you can get out of the Stardust gimmick. And even then, watching that and seeing how Brandy Rhodes was talking about him taking control of the character and taking risks and stuff, I would love to see Cody own that character instead of hate that character and bring it back like the Demon or something like that and be Stardust for a match, be the armor he can hide behind. He said that when his father passed away, Stardust was nice because he was able to hide behind that character. So I think there's, I would like to see him own the character instead of despise the character. I think that Stardust would be fun to see come back in the future for a ruthless Cody Rhodes run.
But again, like, I get one of the things they get into, and when they're getting through the Stardust stuff in the documentary, is like he despised that character, but he absolutely like made the most of it with what he could, and he still wasn't getting the opportunities and whatnot. But I think the biggest complaint that I have with this documentary is, like, it is well done and there's an interesting story here, but just it feels unfinished because his story is still unfinished, right? Like, it kind of felt like the documentary should have ended with his return to WWE and like that's it, and now he's back home and he's figuring it out. But instead it continues on and goes through, like, he returned at WrestleMania, had the big WrestleMania match, and then at the next pay-per-view, he tore his pec, and then he got injured, and then he was out for a year, and then he came back at the Royal Rumble, and he did this, but he still didn't win the championship, and it just kind of ends on that, and it's like a strange ending because it's still ongoing.
I really thought the whole thing was a story about nepotism, starring a guy who didn't realize that he's right at the center of it and is solely where he is because of who his daddy is. And I think he has the whole thing is a story about this isn't nepotism. I had to earn this, and it's pretty much just a nepotism story.
I disagree, but we can agree to disagree.
Yeah, we can. The thing that makes me say that is because he dyes his hair and changed his name to American Nightmare. He couldn't be himself, so he just decided to copy his dad anyways.
No, I disagree. I just don't think it's like a simple copy. I don't want to debate it. I don't want to sit here and go back and forth because I actually want to end this podcast and go do something different. But I just think that
Cody Rhodes did was when he broke his face and was doing the Phantom of the Opera shtick.
They talk about that in it too. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was my favorite. He wrestled completely different. He started like fighting like Mankind and like was all like.
Well, if you like that, you should tune in to watch the ongoing Trish Stratus Becky Lynch story that is like fingernails on a chalkboard, very hard to watch, but Trish Stratus is wearing the broken nose mask.
That's funny.
And their match just got cut from SummerSlam before,
It
on
did.
the day of the pay-per-view.
It got cut so that LA Knight could win a Slim Jim match.
Mm-hmm. And so that Cody Rhodes could beat Brock Lesnar clean. So that was the thing that happened.
Jim.
The Cody Brock match was actually pretty good, though.
So American Nightmare.
Apparently, American Nightmare, you can watch it.
It's on Peacock.
It's watchable.
It is on Peacock. It is.
Okay.
I guess it's certified fresh. Like I said, like I liked watching the story. It just the last it goes on for way too long and still feels unfinished. Like it should have been an hour and 20 minutes, and it's 2 hours long, and it's
probably
long.
not fresh. I'm a big wrestling fan, so I liked it. Drew's a big wrestling fan, so he liked it. But really, if you're not a big wrestling fan, it's not the kind of documentary that's like, holy crap, what a fresh documentary. You kind of have to be a wrestling fan to like it, I think.
Yeah,
that's fair. That is something we can agree on. I think you're absolutely right with that.
Well, hey, I mean, that does it for our Fresh Picks this week. This is episode 98 of Fresh Out the Podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I have been the board game guru, Game Master Extraordinaire, and, wait, that got away from me. Game Master Extraordinaire, and writer on Cthulhu Dreamt, Johannanon.
It's me, Casualty CDG. I'm the co-host of Fresh Out the Podcast and Fresh Out the Box. That's where Jahan and I and our friends and guests play tabletop role-playing games. We stream episodes every Thursday and Friday. We have a YouTube, a Facebook, and a Twitch. Check out Fresh Out the Box. Also, tune in to ktouse.com every Friday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Mountain Time. I'm the DJ over there. There's 101.9 FM K-Taus Radio in northern New Mexico. There's also a website. I'm Gary the Big Guy, and that's the thing that's happening, so check that out.
I am Drew Munhausen at Drew Munhausen on Twitter. And again, this has been episode 98 of Fresh Out, the podcast.
Stay fresh.